Hey guys, so the first book we are going to read is called You Forgot Your Skirt, Amelia Bloomer, and it's by Shanna Corey, and it's illustrated by Chesley McLaren. And I'm going to read you the little blurb here on the inside cover. Would you dare to bare your underwear? If you like clothes and people with the courage to skirt conventions and address injustice, then Amelia Bloomer and her unfitting ideas will charm the pants off you. It says, You Forgot Your Skirt, Amelia Bloomer, a very improper story. Amelia Bloomer was not a proper lady. I love the illustrations in this. In fact, Amelia Bloomer thought proper ladies were silly. She thought it was silly that proper ladies were not allowed to vote, so she tried to change the laws so that they could. Good grief, people said. She has a woman's right to vote. Amelia Bloomer thought it was silly that proper ladies were not supposed to work, so she started her own newspaper and went to work on that. She named the newspaper The Lily. It was a special newspaper all about women. She hired other women to work on it too. A shame, people said. But the silliest thing of all, Amelia Bloomer, was the way proper ladies were supposed to dress. Their dresses were so heavy, wearing them was like carting around a dozen bricks. What was proper about that? Their dresses were so long that proper ladies looked like walking broomsticks. They acted like broomsticks too because their skirts swept up all the mud and trash from the street. What was proper about that? There's the bricks tied to the dress. The corsets they wore underneath their dresses were so tight it was hard to breathe in them. Proper ladies were fainting at the drop of a hat. What was proper about that? So this is a corset, like pulls in your waist, and it has strings attached to it, make your waist look really, really tiny. Here's a lady passing out. And the hoops they wore beneath their dresses were so wide that no matter how they squeezed, no matter how they squished and squashed and stuffed themselves through, proper ladies still got stuck in doorways all over town. What in the world was proper about that? Oh, that would be terrible. Even little girls had to wear proper dresses, so they couldn't run or jump or play. This has got to stop, declared Amelia Bloomer. Then one day, Amelia's friend Elizabeth Cady Stanton came to visit. Elizabeth brought her cousin Libby with her. Libby looked remarkable. She was even more improper than Amelia because Libby was not wearing a dress. Dresses, said Libby. Bah, how silly. Instead of a dress, Libby was wearing something that was not too heavy and not too long and not too tight and not too wide. It looked just right. Brilliant, announced Amelia. Here's Libby. And she went right to her sewing machine and sewed a matching outfit for herself. And then she went out for a walk. So, looks like she kind of has like pants on underneath her skirt. She looks very comfy. The townspeople were aghast. Can you believe it? You forgot your skirt, Amelia Bloomer called the little boy. Shocking, everyone said. But Amelia didn't care one bit. She thought the new clothes were wonderful. She ran and jumped and twirled and did all the things she'd always wanted to do. Amelia had such a good time that she wanted other women to know about the clothes too. So when she got home, she wrote about them in the Lily. Marvelous, said a lady from Boston. I declare, said a lady from Charleston. Where can I get one, asked a lady from Baltimore. Pretty soon Amelia had letters from women everywhere. They all wanted patterns so they could make the new clothes themselves. Some of them even wanted tips on what to wear with the new style. That's awesome. Some people called the new style of clothes the American costume. Most people just called them bloomers. Of course, not everyone liked bloomers. Said one very proper gentleman. Balderdash, said another. This can only lead to more rights for women, grumbled a third. Over time, bloomers went out of style. Proper ladies and gentlemen everywhere breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness, they said. Now everyone will forget this nonsense and things can return to normal. But did people really forget all about Amelia Bloomer and her improper ideas? Well, what do you think? So these are clothes that women wear today, right? So this is about Amelia Bloomer. Oh, that's interesting. Amelia Jenks Bloomer was born in Homer, New York in 1818. My mom grew up in Homer, so I think that's interesting. She worked as a governess and a teacher before marrying Dexter Bloomer, a Quaker newspaper editor from Seneca Falls, New York, where the couple settled in 1840. In 1847, the course of Amelia's life and history changed forever when Elizabeth Cady Stanton, one of the most prominent spokespeople for women's rights, moved to town. Seneca Falls soon became the center of the American women's movement and in 1848 hosted the first women's rights convention. Inspired by the convention, a ladies' temperance society was formed, with Amelia serving as an officer. On January 1st, 1849, a newspaper called The Lily was launched in order to give the society a mouthpiece. It was the first newspaper to be edited entirely by a woman. Amelia was the editor. Amelia was never one to stay quiet when she saw wrongdoing, and so it was not long before editorials on women's rights began appearing in The Lily, alongside the articles against drink. The issue that made The Lily famous was dress reform. Women's clothing at the time was very restrictive and weighed between 20 and 40 pounds. On even the hottest days, women wore layers of petticoats, some of them flannel, under their long skirts. The petticoats made skirts stick out so far that between 20 and 30 yards of material was needed to make the top skirt. Narrow waists were in fashion, and the wider the skirt, the smaller the waist was thought to look. Tightly laced corsets supported by whalebone and sometimes steel, were also worn to make waists look small. Corsets made it impossible for women to move their arms freely and were so tight they caused difficulty breathing and digesting and actually displaced internal organs. The fashion was uncomfortable and dangerous, but what were the other options? Amelia was about to make them known. In the winter of 1850 to 1841, Elizabeth Cady Stanton's cousin Elizabeth Libby Miller came to visit Seneca Falls. She was wearing an unusual outfit consisting of baggy pantaloons with a short skirt over them. Libby had seen the attire in Europe worn by women recuperating from health problems. She adapted it as a traveling outfit for herself on her honeymoon. She was still wearing the style when she visited Seneca Falls. Amelia loved the outfit and printed an article in the Lily urging women to adopt it. The article was picked up by newspapers nationwide, and the circulation of the Lily doubled almost overnight. Reformers such as Stanton and Susan B. Anthony quickly began wearing the new clothes, as did many female athletes. But though many women loved the costume, there was also considerable resistance to it. Some people thought the clothes were unwomanly, and they mocked them and their wearers. Cartoons, popular songs, even theater productions openly made fun of the costume. Opponents of women's rights began equating the movement with the costume and started calling the reformers bloomers, too. After a few years, Amelia and the other reformers stopped wearing bloomers because they didn't want the entire movement to be reduced to a battle over clothing. Amelia Bloomer eventually moved to the Iowa frontier with her husband and adopted 2 children. She never stopped working for women's rights. Bloomers went on to be worn in various styles, with the name becoming representative of independent thinking, just the kind of quality that Amelia herself was known for. From 1890 to 1920, there was even a women's baseball league called the Bloomer League, and to this day, the name Bloomer is still in use. Today, women and girls can wear whatever they want. Perhaps it wouldn't be that way, though, if all those years ago, Amelia Bloomer hadn't had the courage to be improper, and to take a stand for something she believed in. Awesome. Amelia Bloomer. Hope you like that, guys. Miss you.